going on, y'all? It's Hellfire with MachineMasters.com, and today I'm bringing you a preview of the new MPC 1.8 software from Akai for the MPC Renaissance and the MPC Studio. Now, a few months ago, Akai released the MPC 1.7 update, which was a huge update for the MPC community, which brought a lot of new features and a lot of workflow enhancements. Now, MPC 1.8 may not be as huge of an update as 1.7 in terms of the amount of features that are included, but in terms of the impact that the features that are included will have on your workflow, I think 1.8 is going to be a much bigger update than 1.7 was for a lot of people, and I think a lot of you guys are going to agree with me once you actually get your hands on it and use it. Now, MPC 1.8 picks up right where MPC 1.7 left off. 1.8 focuses on sampler engine improvements. There are a lot of other improvements in other areas, but the main meat and potatoes behind 1.8 resides in sample edit and sample record. So without further ado, let's go ahead and jump into sample edit and get started. Now, the first thing you're going to notice in sample edit is the pads are now color coded according to the functions that they perform in the software. The first row of pads are going to be orange, and they're going to perform your one-shot functions. The second row are going to be red. Those are going to do your note on functions. 10 and 11 do the same as 1 and 2 accordingly. 10 is going to play the whole sample as a one shot. 11 is going to play the whole thing as a note on. The yellow pads at the top are going to be for your loop functions, and then number 16, which is green, is going to play the entire sample from start to finish regardless of how you have it trimmed. Now, one thing you'll notice in the GUI, as with the hardware, is that the graphics for the pads are also color coded. You have some new buttons over here for trim chop, and we also have a new mode called program, which allows you to audition your currently selected program while you're in sample edit. So if I'm in main mode and I'm on a track and I jump into sample edit from that track, whatever program that track had assigned to it is going to be the program that's auditioned when I go into sample edit. So you guys are going to see how that can become a really lethal weapon once you start using this software. Over here we have some new buttons. Well, not really new buttons, but newly updated graphics for the buttons. They're laid out a lot more organized, and they look cleaner. This whole area looks just a lot cleaner overall, and I think it looks a lot better personally. On the hardware side of things, we have some new F key buttons. You can see on F1 the trim and chop modes have been combined into one button. On F2 we have the program mode that I just went over. F3 and F4 we have zoom out and zoom in, which allows you to zoom on your sample from the F keys. And 5 and 6 we have assign and process, which aren't really changed from 1.7 to 1.8. Now you might be wondering where the other buttons went that were taken over by zoom on F3 and F4. We now have this new functionality where if you hold shift, it brings up some more additional F keys. So if I hold shift, you can see I have my zero snap and my loop. If I let go shift, it goes back to the default buttons. Now, the zoom on the F keys is going to be a major enhancement for MPC Studio users, for the fact that prior to 1.8, you guys had to continuously bank back and forth on your qlinks to go between chopping and zooming. Well, now you can have your qlinks on chopping, and you can use the F key to zoom in and out, and you can speed up your workflow tremendously by just having that small enhancement. For the Renaissance guys, it's probably not going to be that much of a big deal because you still have access to all 4 rows of qlinks, so you can still zoom with Q4, which I think is a lot faster than the buttons for my personal workflow and my preference. But you know, you can still get down with the F keys as well. It's all up to how you prefer to work. Now, the other thing about the zoom functionality is that the resolution of jog wheel editing is now directly linked to the zoom parameter. So what that means is that if I'm zoomed all the way out, that means my jog wheel editing is going to be a lot coarser. You can see here as I move this, I'm ripping through this entire sample in no time. And it's the same with the end marker as well. This is an entire song I have loaded up here, and you can see I'm ripping from start to finish, you know, in a matter of milliseconds, you know. So, and then you can see if I zoom in on the sample, the jog wheel editing is going to be a lot finer. And I'm moving this thing really fast. You can see that it's still pretty fine. If I zoom in all the way, as far as it'll go, you can see I can edit all the way down to one sample at a time, or one tick at a time, you know, depending on what lingo you choose to use. Now, one sample is as fine as you can get in digital audio, so, you know, it really can't get any better than this. So one click of the jog wheel moves your cursor one sample at a time. So you can get really surgical with your chopping with the jog wheel now, which is something a lot of people have been requesting coming from hardware MPCs. The other thing we have is this slice field, which allows you to preview your different slices that you create in chop mode. You can't actually chop from within trim mode, but you can preview the slices that you create in chop mode. So you can go to chop, make some slices, come back to trim, and you can go through your slices, you can edit them, you can assign them to pads, you know, do a whole bunch of different stuff. The other thing we have here is we go into the process screen. You guys are gonna love this. Go to time stretch. We now have automatic BPM calculation. So this allows you to define the number of beats for the sample. Let's just say, you know, I knew it was 24 beats. It's gonna give me my tempo there, my original tempo there, and here I can define my new tempo with this field. I can also change my new tempo by using the ratio. The higher you go with the ratio, the slower the sample is going to be. The lower you go with the ratio, the faster your sample is going to be. The other thing we can do is if we want to BPM detect by tune, we can go in the window on the tune parameter, and we can again tell it how many beats we have, and it's going to tell us what the tempo is based on the tune parameter. So let's say I know this is, let's say it's 36 beats. Right now it's saying at the default tune, my sample is 11 BPM. Now if I tune this up in pitch, it's going to tell me what my new tempo is. Or I can just press this match button, and it's going to make my pitch go to a setting that's going to make the tempo of the sample match the sequence tempo. The other thing we have is if you look in the software, the timeline, we can now view this in beats, which is going to tell us how many bars the sample is according to the sequence tempo. So as I adjust the sequence tempo, it adjusts my bars in beats. So the other thing you can do is the touch sensitive qlinks now allow you to adjust the focus of your start and end point. So what that means is that if I zoom in right now, I'm focused on the start point of the sample. If I tap one of these other qlinks for the end point, it's gonna focus on the end. So you can see it jumps there. And if I want to jump back to the front, you know, I can do that, and it's gonna go back and forth. So, you know, while you're chopping, that's gonna be really vital to your chop speed, because as soon as you touch a qlink to adjust something, the screen is automatically going to focus on exactly where you're editing your sample. So I think you guys are going to love that one as well. Now, without further ado, let's get into one of the most anticipated features I think in MPC history, and probably why you guys are watching this video to begin with, and that's non-destructive chopping. So in 1.8, the entire sample engine is completely non-destructive. So that goes for sample copying, sample chops, assigning slices, everything is completely non-destructive. So if I take this sample and I make, you know, a whole bunch of copies of it, no matter how many copies I make, all those copies are still going to refer back to only one file on my hard drive, and I'll show you that later. Right now we're in trim mode, and like I told you before, the trim and chop buttons are now combined into one button. So if I toggle F1, it's going to take me into chop mode. So what I can do in here is we now have manual chopping. If I change this, I still have all my other chop modes, which you guys should be familiar with already. So I want to talk about manual mode. So right now we have no slices because we just have the sample. We just came into it. We have these two modes. It's going to play the sample back. The orange one is going to play my selected slice. The other one is going to play the entire sample. So to start adding slices, we want to use this new Q field here. So this moves a Q marker. You can see it moving across the screen on the hardware and the software. Wherever I place this and press F6, it's going to add a slice. You can see that first slice has a 1 on it at the top on the red flag. I'll move it again. It's going to add another slice there. Wherever you put it, it's going to add a slice. All right, so let's take those out. Now, if I want to chop this in real time, I can also do that. So right now, again, I'm back. I have no slices again. So I want to chop this thing from start to finish. So the first thing you want to do is you want to add a slice to the beginning. So let's put this on 0. That's going to bring our cube back to the start. And I'm going to add a slice. So that's going to put a slice right at the beginning of the sample. And now what I want to do is I want to trigger the slice. And I'm going to press F6 and it's going to add slices in real time. Let's say this section I don't want anything, I can stop. Sample will still go on. Now I want to jump back in here and add some more. Now let's say I want to go back and add some more slices after number 12, which I left blank. Let's say I did hear something there. I can go back and add some more in there. So you can do that. What I can do is I can also jump to the end of the song or the middle or wherever. I can trigger that. So in this case, you will want to trigger it from the play cue. And then you can jump right in. Play cue is obviously going to play back from wherever the cue marker is. You can also adjust the cue marker with Q15. This is going to be a fine adjustment. So if you want to jump around really quickly, you're going to want to use the jog wheel instead. And remember, the jog wheel for this marker is also based on zoom. So the farther you zoom in, the more fine it's going to be. Zoom out, it's going to be a little bit more coarse. All right, so that's going to be a real handy addition. Now let's say we want to convert this to some to a program or something. So we're gonna press shift, and that's gonna bring up some more F key functions. So we have our one shot, we have our zero snap process, which we can process the individual slices destructively though, but it doesn't actually create new files, it just overwrites the existing file. And then we have convert, we have clear all, we have remove slice. So before I convert it, let me show you remove slice. We can take a slice, just take slices out. Say I don't want that one, hold shift, remove slice. Don't want that one, shift, remove slice. If I don't want any of the slices, I want to start fresh, I would just hold shift, press clear all. It's going to bring me back to a fresh, clean slate. So let's go to convert, and you can see I have a bunch of new program conversion options. By default, it's going to be on non-destructive chopping, which is new programs using slices. Slices refer to non-destructive, and if you see samples, that refers to destructive. So by default, it's going to be slice type non-destructive slice, which is similar to JJOS style non-destructive chop, where it's going to have one sample with a whole bunch of slices embedded into the actual sample, and you can assign the different slices to the different pads and program edit, which I'll go over in a later video or briefly in this video. The other type we have is pad parameters, where in this case it's going to take a copy or a non-destructive copy of the entire sample for each slice, and it's going to spread it out on a pad. So here you can see I have about 26 slices or so. It's going to make a non-destructive copy of the entire sample for each slice and put it on the pads, and each pad is going to have the sample trimmed to according to how the slice is chopped in sample edit. Another convert to option we have is destructive chopping, which is new program with new samples. So as I mentioned, anywhere you see new samples, that means it's going to make a destructive copy of the actual audio file. So we have the standard options that we always have. This is pretty much unchanged since 1.0 to 1.7. We're going to have non-destructive assign slice to a pad, which is basically going to assign the selected slice to any pad that I want and any program that I want and any slice type that I want, whether non-destructive or pad parameters. And here we have destructive sample assign. This is going to extract the sample and make a new file out of it and put it on a pad. And then lastly, we have our trusty patch phrase, which is pretty much unchanged for 1.8. Now, before I convert this, I want to go over one more sample edit function, and that's scrub. So basically what we can do is we can go to our start or endpoint, press window, and here we have Q preview and slice preview. Q preview is basically going to scrub that Q marker that I told you guys about. Slice preview is gonna scrub your chops. So if I turn this on before, those are one option we have, and then we also have after and after. So I like to use after because it basically lets me preview how my slice is gonna sound on the pad. So let's zoom in here a little bit. Let's go back to this slice. So you can see as I move the qlink, it's going to give me a little preview of what my sound is going to sound like on the pad. And if I tap the qlink, you can see I can also audition that small clip, or I can hit the pad to audition how it's going to sound. So when I tap the qlink, it's basically giving me a preview of me hitting the pad. So it allows you to get really surgical, you know, with your slicing, and then the same thing goes for the Q. You know, so I think you guys are really gonna enjoy that. Shout out to Masada for bringing that one to light. He really championed that idea. So you guys should thank him for that, and thank the developers for nailing it. So. All right, now let's say I want to convert this to non-destructive slice program. I do that. I go out to main mode. My track is already on it. I go into program edit. You can see here we have my slice. If I hit each pad, it's going to tell me what the slice is. I can change the slice. I can put any slice I want on any pad. I can reverse it. I can also change the offset, which is going to basically, alter the way the pad is trimmed, and it's going to basically. Is going to allow you to basically offset the timing of the sample. It's really good for drums, but I mean you can use it on anything. So that you can go positive or negative. Negative is going to push the sample back. Positive is going to trim a little bit off and make it start a little quicker. Okay, we have a bunch of different sample nipples here, which gives you different functionality. So you can see this is a non-destructive slice program. These are the options you get. If I were to convert that to pad parameters, I would have some different options. Let's go to main mode. We still have the offset, and you can see now the slice mode is set to pad. So it still has my slices, but each slice is a copy of the entire sample trimmed to how I wanted that slice. And then here we can adjust each slice's trim right from Program Edit. So I can adjust how this slice is trimmed right from this screen. I know, and you can do it completely by ear. You don't even have to use the waveform or anything. Here we have pad loop functions, which is gonna allow you to loop a section of the pad. Like I said, I'll go into much more detail about this in an actual tutorial about chopping, but you know, for now, that's what you can do with these new features. Now, another really dope enhancement was added to chopping with the mouse. So you can see here, if I go over to chop mode with the mouse and I click on the bottom half of the waveform, it's gonna audition the sample. Now, if I move a little bit above the halfway mark, it's gonna give me a new tooltip for slicing. You can see it has a vertical line that shows you exactly where the slice is gonna be inserted. So you can just go through your whole sample really quickly with this and add some real nice, precise, rough cuts, you know, really quickly on the fly. Then once you have all the slices you want, you can go ahead, you can zoom in, and you can get real surgical with it. So this should be a nice enhancement for the guys that's using the MPC software when they're away from the hardware. Now, one huge feature that's been extremely sought after since probably 1.0, probably one of the most anticipated features and requested features is none other than non-destructive pad copy. Shout out to the homie Knox Squared. He was always saying that the lack of this feature was one of the main reasons he can never completely rock with the MPC Renaissance. Well, now, my brother, you can, and we welcome you with open arms. So let me just demonstrate how that works. So right now I'm in chop mode. As I mentioned before, we have program mode in sample edit. So that's how I'm going to do demonstrate this. So let's go into program mode. I'm going to put my sample on pad 1. And I'm gonna set it to pad parameters. So I'm just gonna hold shift, go into pad copy, and while I'm still holding shift, I'm gonna hit the pad that I want to copy. And then now all I have to do is hit all the pads that I want to copy that sample to, and that's it. So I press do it, and you'll see in the software I now have copies of that sample on all my pads. So what this allows you to do is basically you can have a copy of the sample on each pad, and you can edit them independently. So let's say the first one, I want this to be edited like this. The second one, I might want it to be like this. The third one, I might want it to be, you know, way over here somewhere. The fourth one, you know, and so on, you know, however you want to do it. So, like I said, Knox Squared, come on over to the dark side. You're welcome over here. And I know you're going to enjoy this feature as well as everybody else. So let's move right along to what else we have. As I mentioned, sample record was also an improved area of the MPC 1.8 software. So let's jump to sample record. You can see immediately we have this effects button. This allows us to add input effects. You can see on this one I have a Waves API, and I can bring that right up here and I can tweak it as I want. Now once I had that inserted, I can go back to the main record screen. I can start recording. You can see it's going. If I go back into my plugin, I can tweak it as, you know, it's being recorded. And this is destructive recording too, because whatever you do to the plugin or whatever you put on these input effects is going to be recorded into your actual sample. So you may want to be careful, you know, what you do, because it's going to be permanent. So I think a lot of you guys are going to really enjoy having input effects and, you know, being able to record your effects directly into your audio files, which is going to allow you to save processing power later. Of course, you can't go back and edit it, but, you know, it's still going to be something that's going to be fun to play with. Now, the other thing you're going to notice is on F1, we have two little modes here. The first one is the main sampler. The second one is a looper. This one basically allows you to play your sequence back and record to it in a loop playlist style recording. And as it loops and adds more layers, it's basically going to add that into the same audio file, which you can then export from the screen and throw it right to a pad and put it in your sequence. So as I mentioned, this is more like a playlist style version of direct record, except it gives you all your different playlists in one file on top of each other. So you can just you can background vocals with it. You can layer some pianos, guitars, whatever you want, do scratches. You can play them in reverse. You can overdub them. You can monitor it or not. You can do a whole bunch of stuff with this. You guys are going to have a lot of fun playing around with this. And also the input effects also work with this area of sample record. The other thing we have is if I record a sample, all right, I can assign it directly to a program right from within sample record, which is something that's been missing from the MPC software since 1.0. The other thing we can do is related to direct record. Let's say if I direct record a sample. Okay. I'm going to tell it what pad I want. I'm going to tell it to add an event, and you can see I can now assign both the track and the program in one screen. So before, direct record only allowed you to pick the track, and then it will put the sample on whatever program was on that track. Now you can assign the program directly from this screen. So if you're direct recording on a blank track that doesn't have the program that you want on it, you can select that new blank track and the new program that you want, or another program that you want, and any pad that you want. So, you know, that's a really huge improvement for the guys that love direct recording, which, you know, I'm one of them. So to me, that's really major. So now let's go to let's load up a plugin here. I'm gonna bring up let's bring up SampleTank 3. So I got SampleTank loaded up. Let me just pick a sound real quick. Now at first glance it appears nothing's changed. You know, I play the piano, whoop-de-doo. The magic behind this is now if I press pad assign, it takes me to the new chords and scales mode, which is new in 1.8. So basically, when you come in here, you can pick the type. Right now it's just on notes, so it's gonna play, you know, just a single note at a time. But if I press F2, which is gonna put it on 1-3-5, is gonna play chords 1-3-5. And hit the bank. I can select minor or major. I can put it on chromatic. You know, a whole bunch of different, there's a lot of different options here. We also have chord progressions. You know, and it's a whole bunch of different chord progression styles you can choose from. You know, this allows you to really get down, you know, some ideas quickly. Even if you're And even if you are a piano player and you know how to play keys, this may allow you to get some stuff down that you might not have come up with on your own by playing naturally. So, to me, that's where the main advantage of this mode comes in, is being able to come up with stuff that you probably wouldn't have thought of on your own, because there's a whole bunch of different chords and key progressions in here. So you can come up with some really good ideas really quickly. If I hold shift, it's going to give me a different version of that chord. Basically, when you hold shift, it's basically giving you the 1-4-5. If I'm on 1-3-5-7 and I hold shift, it's going to give me the 1-3-5-7B. Okay, so moving right along. The other thing we have is from the hardware, we now have the ability to double your sequence really quickly. So if I press double, you can see it's going to go from 2 bars to 4 bars, double. In the software, we have half right there and double. So another thing we have with the sequencer is, let me go to my second track with my program on it. We go to the step sequencer. Before, when you hit the pads, it's going to put notes on them. And if you wanted to change the pad you were working on, you would always have to hit pad up or pad down. Now we have this pad selection mode. If I press this pad, I can quickly change the pad that I'm working on just by tapping it. So that's going to let me adjust that pad now. And when I add stuff, you're going to see it's going to add it there. And if I press pad select and I go to a different pad and I add notes, now it's going to do that. So another thing we have now is if I go to my inserts, we now have the vintage mode plugins officially supported in the software. So you no longer have to do the hack to get this to work. This now works officially on both the Renaissance and the MPC Studio, and it's built right into 1.8. So you see, if I put the MPC 3000 on and I open it up, we now have a GUI showing us what vintage mode we're on. And again, this works for the MPC Studio and the MPC Renaissance. The other thing we have is we go to export. We go to as audio mixdown, we can now save the project as a preview. So when you go through the browser and you scroll to your project file, it's gonna give you a short little clip of what that project sounds like without you having to load the entire project. So it's gonna be really quick for you guys to go through your projects, and if you forgot what you named it, you can just quickly hear a small little clip of it, without having to load the whole thing. So that's gonna be a nice little enhancement for everybody. And lastly, one small little feature that I think you guys are gonna find welcome is, let's say I load a program up here, any random program, and I have my samples over here. Now you can see we have a cursor on the files, so it's really easy to see which one you are editing now. So I can see easily this is the one that I'm editing or renaming. Before, if I clicked one of these, there was no type of feedback or anything to tell me which one I'm actually clicking on. So now we have that. If we go to sample edit, if I click one of these, it's gonna jump me to that waveform. But yeah, man, that's basically 1.8 in a nutshell. I try to keep the video as short as possible, but as you can see, there's a lot of features in there. I hope I didn't miss anything. I'm sure I missed some small things. You guys will be able to discover them once you get this in your hands. But for now, make sure you check out machinemasters.com. Shout out to the MPC beta team who worked hard to bring this update to you guys with the developers. Hope you guys enjoy it, and be on the lookout for some more tutorials on MPC 1.8 from me. And that's it. Signing off. Hellfire. Peace.